We are going to understand the concept of gene therapy and few basic things about gene therapy. Okay. First of all, what is gene therapy? In medicine, gene therapy is defined as therapeutic strategy that transfers DNA to a patient's cell to correct a defective gene or a gene product in order to treat diseases that are not curable with conventional drugs. Gene therapy is usually used wherever there is a defect in gene, or either the gene is not making a functional protein, or it is for some reason it is inactive, or it is mutated, such that some vital function is affected, and which results in or immunopathophysiology or any kind of pathological symptoms. So in those conditions we will be using gene therapy. Okay, understanding the precise pathomechanism of diseases as well as the development of efficient and specific gene targeting and delivery tools are revolutionizing the global market nowadays. See, people have started understanding molecular mechanism behind the pathomechanism. Okay, which gene is responsible for what function, and what are the elements caused by the defective or deficient gene products. Okay, so understanding in-depth understanding is now contributing immensely and in the development of gene therapy, and there is a revolutionary change in the global market because of that. If we talk about first gene therapies approved, so we can name that Luxturna was the first human gene therapy drug which was approved by Food and Drug Administration, and this drug entered US market for treatment of inherited retinal dystrophy. Okay, and in the same year, two other drugs which were cell-based gene therapies, Kymriah and Yescarta, were approved by FDA, and they also entered US market. So these were the drugs which were approved by FDA. Okay, we will shortly know the different kinds of or different platforms of gene therapy. There can be cell-based gene therapies and non-cell-based therapies. Other than FDA, if we talk about, then it was in 2003 when China Food and Drug Administration approved a gene therapeutic product, that was Jandesin. Okay, it was recombinant human p53 adenovirus based biopharmaceutical, and which was approved for treatment of head and neck squamous cell carcinoma. So it was approved for to be used for cancer, right? And in Russia, another first in class gene therapy drug was approved for peripheral artery disease, including critical limb ischemia. Okay, and in Europe in 2012 it was Glybera, which was approved for treatment of rare inherited disorder, and it became the first to be approved for clinical use in Europe, and then later in United States also. So if we talk about approval by US FDA, then it was in not until 2017 when gene therapy based drug was approved, but it was in 2003, as early as 2003, when in China there was a gene therapy based drug approved already for a treatment of a cancer. Okay, so in August 2017 Kymriah was approved, then in October 2017 Yescarta, and later in the year Luxturna and Chimera for another version of Chimera which was approved for adult patients in May 2018, and later in May 2019 uh, this Zolgensma was approved, which was for pediatric patients less than 2 years of age, which were suffering from spinal muscular atrophy. Okay, so this is about the first few gene therapy based drugs and their approval. Now let us know what are different approaches of gene therapy. See, there are two approaches broad in a broader sense. There are two approaches: in vivo gene therapy approach and ex vivo gene therapy approach. Okay. Now, what do we mean by in vivo and ex vivo gene therapy? See, in vivo means where we introduce the therapeutic drug or the recombinant vector directly into the patient. Okay, so we are transferring the gene in vivo. Okay, so we have a recombinant therapeutic product and we introduce it in the patient's body, either systemically or near the target of the uh, target organ, or maybe into the target organ. Okay, so either you introduce the drug systemically or into the organ, or closer to the organ but in the patient's body itself. Okay, so in that situation it will be called in vivo gene therapy. Okay, this strategy has achieved success in the treatment of eye diseases, neurological disorders and hemophilia, and among others. Okay, now what about ex vivo? Ex vivo gene therapy means that we take out the patient cell out of its body and then we genetically engineer them. Okay, we incorporate the therapeutic gene into those cells and we make them in a way recombinant, which are having now the functional, which are having the desired correction in the gene product or the gene itself. Okay, now these cells which are now modified outside the host or outside the patient's body are reintroduced into the patient's body. So we did therapeutic operation outside the patient's body, then we introduced the modified cells again in the patient's body to bring about the beneficial changes or uh, for correction of the ailment. Okay, so this way we see in vivo and ex vivo method of gene transfer, and these are highly effective nowadays. Both the ways are being used equally, either in vivo gene transfer and ex vivo gene transfer. Various inherited metabolic and immunological disorders and different types of cancers have been successfully used in these treatment of these kind of diseases. Ex vivo gene therapy is successfully used for the treatment purpose. For example, we have in vivo gene therapy for Parkinson's disease, and ex vivo for ALL, that is acute lymphoblastic leukemia, or CLL, chronic lymphoblastic leukemia. In some cases of myeloma, melanoma, metastatic cancers, and we have used such kind of therapy. We have different technological platforms like CAR therapy or TCR therapy, that we will shortly know that what are these therapies. Okay, now in ex vivo gene transfer method we also use hematopoietic stem cells, and we modify them ex vivo for treatment of different diseases such as beta thalassemia, SCID, X-linked SCID, or ADA SCID, or WS or MLD. Okay, these diseases can be treated by ex vivo gene transfer in hematopoietic stem cells. Just a second. Is this next slide visible to you, students?
Yes,
There are already approved gene therapy drugs, both in vivo gene therapy drugs and ex vivo gene therapy drugs, For example, we have Gendicin, Neovasculgen, and many more, which are based on in vivo gene therapy. And there are many ex vivo gene therapy products also in the market, like allogenic T cells or autologous T cells, autologous hematopoietic stem cells. Okay, what do we mean by allogenic or autologous cells? Autologous cells means we take out the cells from the patient, and then we modify them for and we carry out gene therapy manipulation out ex vivo, and then we transfer those cells back to patients. So patients own cells are used for therapeutic purpose. Now when we take cells from another donor and then modify them through gene therapy and transfer them into the patient, then they will be called allogenic. Okay, so autologous and allogenic operation, allogenic way is there uh, for carrying out ex vivo gene therapy. Okay, there are many drugs already approved. As you can see, these are the list of these drugs. Once James Watson said that we used to think that our fate was in our stars, but now we know that in large measure our fate is in our genes. So, because we can change our fate by changing our genes, we can cure a disease by altering the gene and its expression pattern or its regulation, right? So, indeed, our fate is in our genes. So now, what kinds of diseases can be treated by gene therapy? Okay, different kinds of genetic disorders, either caused by the defect in single gene or defect in multiple genes, or highly complex genetic diseases. So there can be three classes of these diseases that can be you know uh, we target for gene therapy, right? When single locus is defective and responsible for the disease, and it is 100% inheritable, like examples may be sickle cell anemia and severe combined immunodeficiency caused by ADA, cystic fibrosis, hemophilia, Huntington's disease, okay, then Parkinson's disease, hypercholesterolemia. Whenever there is only single gene involved, causing inheritable changes and causing the disease, that can be targeted very easily by gene therapy. And then there are polygenic disorders when multiple genes are involved, and disease may be dependent on environmental factors and lifestyle also. So like heart diseases, cancer, diabetes, Alzheimer disease, etc. So these kind of diseases can also be targeted for treatment by gene therapy. Infectious diseases such as HIV and involving multiple genetic factors can also be targeted by these gene therapies. There are different gene therapy platforms through which we can edit or alter the gene. Okay, so there are different kinds of platforms. So our purpose is to correct the gene problem in the gene or its regulation. So we can use a number of technologies, right? So different, we need to understand it in detail also, but we won't study all these platform in this lecture. We will take another lecture for understanding all these platforms, but to just to let you know that there are many technologies available that can be used to create gene therapy based drugs. Once you are ready with the vector or the cell therapy, you need to deliver that, you need to transfer that into the patient. So there are different gene delivery techniques used in gene therapy. Either they are viral vector based gene delivery techniques or non-viral vector based gene delivery techniques. Okay, viral vector based means we will be using some vehicle virus to transfer the therapeutic compound into the patient. And non-viral means we won't be using viral vectors. Other than viral vectors, we will be using um, to deliver the gene therapy in the patient. To make this more clear, I have taken the examples of different types of viral vectors used to deliver the desired gene. Okay, so we have different kinds of vectors that can be used to deliver the desired gene. Either they will be transiently expressing the desired gene, or they may be the expression or the because of the integration of the gene into the genome, there the expression of the gene can be long lasting. Okay, there are different these are different kinds, like adenovirus, adeno associated virus, alpha virus, herpes virus, retrovirus or lentivirus, vaccinia virus. These are all the platforms used for delivery of the desired gene through gene therapy. Mostly adenovirus and lentiviruses are preferred for these purposes, but others can also be considered to be chosen as the viral vectors. So most of them has DNA as their genome, except the alpha viruses and the retroviruses, which have RNA genome, right? And then capsid, most of them have icosahedral capsid, but Vaccinia virus, as you know, they have a very complex capsid. And adenovirus and adenovirus associated viruses are naked, means they don't have an envelope outside the viral particle, while other viruses like alpha virus, herpes virus, retrovirus, vaccinia virus, they all have an envelope. Okay, and uh, they do not have any virion polymerase except the retrovirus and the vaccinia virus. They have their own polymerases inside the viral particle. Okay, so they vary in their diameter and their genome size very greatly. The then they may have some preference or tropism towards the type of cell they infect. Okay, either the cell they infect is dividing or non-dividing type, right? So they may show a tropism. Okay, and host genome integration will occur or not. This is also like mostly they do not integrate, and but retroviruses do integrate into the host genome. Okay, so there may be variation in this also, that whether they are integrating or not, and then how the transgene which we are delivering will be expressed, for how long, what will be the duration. Okay, gene therapy property, among gene therapy properties, it is very important that for how long the gene of interest will be expressing in the host or patient. Okay, so from transient to long lasting or potentially long lasting expressions and variations you can see uh, in the desired gene expression delivered by the viral vectors. Now, how much DNA or what is the length of the DNA that can be packaged in these viruses also vary. It ranges from 4.5 kb to more, as much as more than 30 kb. Okay, so you will have to consider all these criteria before choosing a viral vectors for your designing a therapeutic product for gene therapy. Now we are going to know a little bit about non-viral vector-based gene delivery also. Non-viral vector-based means they can be physical means of gene delivery or chemical means of gene delivery. Whenever we use non-viral vector-based gene delivery methods, there are some extracellular barriers for the delivery of those formulations. If we are administering the drug systemically, or we are administering it intra-tissue in an intra-tissue way, or if we are delivering the DNA or therapeutic compound or candidate in a naked or complex form, it will always face some extracellular barriers. Okay, like in the barrier A is that the gene itself or the preparation or the candidate can undergo DNA degradation in plasma, or may be cleared by the reticuloendothelial system. Okay, or while crossing the microvessel wall, it may be degraded, or while getting transported to the target cell, in the extracellular matrix, it may get damaged or it may get degraded. Okay, so all these concerns we have while designing or using a non-viral vector based platform for gene delivery. There are several methods for non-viral vector-based delivery, gene delivery, like nucleofaction. It is nothing but a electroporation-based system that allows high transfection efficiencies with high cell viability in most of the cells that we use for gene delivery, like human hematopoietic stem cells, dendritic cells, or induced pluripotent stem cells. All these cells can be subjected to nucleofaction at with a good transfection efficiency. Okay, and the second non-viral vector-based gene delivery platform can be liposomes or catalytic polymers. Okay, these allow delivery of large DNA fragments because due to the interaction between the cationic, because you see these are cationic polymers or liposome, we can engineer these the way we desire. So interaction between the cationic charge and the anionic charge of the cell membrane, there can be they can facilitate the delivery of large DNA fragments. Okay, and they can also have can be very good carriers for transfection of DNA that are expressing different recombinant nucleases, or even nucleoprotein complexes, if we are using Cas9 protein or guide RNA. Okay, for as a mode of gene therapy. Okay, then there is another category, is cell penetrating peptides. We can deliver specific nucleases using cell penetrating peptides. These are also known as protein transduction domains or membrane translocation sequences. Okay, these have short cationic or amphipathic peptides of 5 to 40 amino acids that can traverse mammalian plasma membrane. So this is an important feature, that they can traverse the plasma membrane, mammalian plasma membrane. And there have been many successful experiments using cell penetrating peptides. Okay, for example, Roux et al. Fused tolens with HIV-1 TAT protein, which is a cell penetrating peptide. And this formulation, this Talane along with the CPP, showed 3 to 5%, 3 and 5% gene disruption, target gene disruption in HeLa cell lines or and human iPSCs. Okay, 3 and 5% target gene disruption. So it means that it was reaching the Talane. The Talane was reaching to the target by use of the cell penetrating peptide. Okay, and in another study, the Talanes have also been conjugated with polyarginine peptide, which is again a cell penetrating peptide. This also showed the knockout of CECR5 and BMPR1A genes, which were the target gene in that particular study. So it is very successful use of cell penetrating peptide in as non-viral vector based gene delivery system. Nano Nanoparticles can also be used as a non-viral vector-based gene delivery method. What are nanoparticles? These are particles having 1 to 100 nanometer size. They can be generated by n number of strategies like attrition, pyrolysis, hydrothermal synthesis, etc. Okay, and I will give you just one example. It was a research group of Mary E. Egan that developed a new method for surface modifying PGL in nanoparticle with cell penetrating peptide. Okay, so nanoparticle along with cell penetrating peptide, and they combine it to develop PLGA, PBAG, MPG nanoparticles. Okay, so this whole complex is the gene therapy drug, and it can be delivered as in the nasal chamber, and it was found that it could achieve the modification of 5% of the nasal epithelium cells and more than 1% of the lungs. So this way nanoparticles were used as a very efficient delivery system. Okay, and using this system, authors also delivered peptide nucleic acid, okay, and donor DNA molecule to correct this mutation in the CFTR, and they could do it both in vivo and ex vivo by gene correction and an order of magnitude higher than previously achieved. So the CFTR mutation uh, could be corrected by these complex of peptide nucleic acids and donor DNA. Okay, so the role of nanoparticle is nowadays increasing day by day for efficient delivery of gene therapies. Another non-viral vector-based gene therapy method is sonoporation. Here, ultrasound is used to transfer the gene. In this technique, ultrasonic waves are used to induce small pores in the membrane, or to induce cell membrane permeabilization. Okay, that permeabilization facilitates the intracellular gene entry. Okay, now in each ultrasonic cycle, a part of the energy of the propagation wave is absorbed by the cell, that results in the effects on the cell membrane. So cell permeabilization results. So okay, these cationic polymers are also very popular in amongst gene therapists. So the examples of cationic polymers are like natural polymers, chitosan, dendrimers, such as polyamidamide, and polypeptides such as poly-L-lysine, polyarginine, ornithine, histones, protamines, etc. Typically, these cationic polymers have high density of the amine group, and these amine groups are protonable at neutral pH. So they protonate at neutral pH. Now, when mixed with the negatively charged DNA, which is the component of the gene therapy, this allow negative positive charge interaction allow the polymers to form complexes known as polyplexes. Okay, so this electrostatic interaction between the cationic polymers and the DNA gene, or the gene, the component of the gene therapy interacts and makes the polyplexes. And these are nano-sized transfection units. Their size ranges from the 1 to 100 nanometer. Okay, and they have higher stability than lipoplexes. Okay, lipid and DNA complexes. So the contributions of these polymers to transfections have been attributed to several capabilities. They have many capabilities, like they enhance the DNA uptake by the endocytosis. Okay, they protect the DNA from nucleus degradation. Okay, and they facilitate the DNA escape from the endosome. Okay, because once the DNA gets inside the cell, that must be protected. Okay. However, with the usage of different polymers, the transfection activity and toxicity may vary dramatically. It means that you need to make a very important and critical choice to balance the transfection activity and toxicity. So least toxicity should be there. Such a polymer must be chosen. Other than the discussed one, there are a few more non-viral vector-based methods like micro-injection, needle injection, jet injection, use of gene gun, like those. Okay, so they have their own disadvantages and advantages. So we need to make a very, careful choice while choosing a non-viral vector-based method. Okay. So in this lecture, we'll stop here, and we will continue this gene therapy, and we'll understand more and more and take some examples also, and we'll try to understand it in more detail in our next lecture. Okay, thank you for watching. Please do subscribe, like, and share.